us, and we're extremely excited to have him here with us. It was interesting, we had one speaker that was off and on, and Andrew had, right at that time, been in contact with me, said, hey, I'm in the area, been part of the program, I'd love to come back and speak and talk about some of the things that I've learned in the industry and that I've learned now at Texas A&M. And I thought, what a great opportunity. I checked with Brother Tolman. I said, how does this guy size up? And he said, catch him if you can. So we caught him. So just kudos to you from Brother Tolman. He paid you some very kind regards. And so I'll just kind of go over some of the things. He was one of the founding members of the Healthcare Admin Society here, the treasurer in 2011. He's a member of AIC. Did his undergrad internship at ERMAC in helping set up the transfer center. Received his bachelor's in science in healthcare administration from BYU-I in the spring of 2012. Route manager at Norco Inc. for a little over a year. A specialist in HealthPoint, a data specialist in HealthPoint in the state of Texas. And then graduate intern at Ashley Regional Medical Center in Vernal, Utah. Received the Peaks, or was the Peaks Award nominee for Ashley Regional Medical Center. And then is now a second year Texas A&M MHA student. So we're extremely excited to have him. And so let's give him a round of applause.
Well, I'm glad that I can make it here. And fortunate enough, I guess I had an internship in Vernal where it wasn't too far of a drive, so. I also, I guess I'm married, so my wife Ariana in the crowd as well. I have 3 kids, 2 sons, 1 daughter. My oldest is Jacob, and he's, you have to make sure I get this right, I guess, 4. And a 2-year-old daughter, Kayleen, and then we have almost a 1-year-old son, Jackson. So we're currently, I guess, I'm about at the end of my practicum or internship down at Vernal, Utah, Ashley Regional Medical Center. It's one of 60, or one of 70 now, hospitals that LifePoint, the corporation LifePoint Hospitals owns. They are a break-off of HCA. So back in the 80s, HCA had to divest itself of some hospitals, and they formed, I think it was 3 other corporations from this, and one of them happened to be LifePoint. So I've kind of, I guess, stuck with for-profit hospitals, it seems like, for my internship so far. Not on purpose, but just kind of random. But Norco, I delivered medical gases. So I did a lot of oxygen setups, a lot of different medical equipment that I cleaned and sterilized and set back up again in customer service area. I worked there for a year before going down to Texas A&M to start my graduate program. I guess, do you guys have any specific questions on Texas A&M right now at all, or would you rather just kind of run through the presentation for it and see what happens?
No questions now at the end. I can give you the one.
Okay, well, how about I run through it real fast? Is that all right?
I think there are questions.
Okay. All right. So
I'm sure
I
the
asked,
answers.
yeah, I asked A&M for some material on it, and I'll give you a copy of the presentation so you can pass it around to whoever wants it. So some of this I'm not going to go over in great detail. Other parts I'm going to breeze through, which is like this next slide here. And it's got, there you go. This is their introduction to the program. It's really small and compact on one slide, and that's one of those parts I was going to kind of breeze over. For my studies, when I was looking at different programs, and I had a couple things in mind. Some of these being this year. The last time World News ranked them, they were ranked number 39th, which is better than not being ranked. Not the best, obviously. I mean, Minnesota is ranked with number 2, and VCU, I think, is number 6 or 7 still. And so there's a number of programs that are still high ranked. Ohio State, St. Louis University, I think, is another one. But and all of those, by the way, BYU students or BYU-I students have gone to. I think we're in Penn State now too. So it's 57 credit hours though. It is accredited. They do have an alumni organization I'll talk about a little bit. And then the cohort sizes or the class sizes are about 25 to 30 students, and they may be getting bigger. I don't know what the incoming class is. So the program requirements, as far as I could find and remember from when I applied, minimum GPA of 3.0, the GMAT or the GRE, but they want it at least the 50th percentile. And then a new one that they made me aware of is that starting in 2015, you're gonna have to have at least a B or higher in statistics. So I don't know if that was my class having trouble in statistics or previous classes or just a combination of everything, but there's about 3 classes that we'll go over here that are heavily involved with statistics. So the way that they want you to do it is either through, I guess it's SOFAS or HAMCAS. And those different programs, I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they'll take your personal information, they'll want a resume uploaded, they'll want some education transcripts, different things like that uploaded. And they'll also have your GMAT and GRE scores uploaded, as well as 3 letters of recommendation is what this university wants. Most of them that I found wanted at least 2, the majority I think are 3 still. So. For me, they let me know that if I lived in Texas, they'd like me to travel out to the university for the interview. Otherwise, though, if we're outside Texas, they tend to do it by Skype, it seems like, which is a video conference of some kind. So my interview was over Skype, and from my knowledge, most of the decisions are made at the end of the interview if they're going to offer you a position or not. I can't say that it's 100% if they don't offer it to you at the end that you're not going to get it or anything, but for me and a few other students that I've talked to, the majority of them seem like they got an offer right at the end of the interview. Yeah.
During the interview process, like during that interview, what sort of questions were they asking you, and how did that kind of play out? What was the tone of the interview?
I think, at least for me, it seemed like the tone was, I don't want to say laid back, but it wasn't a super strict formal one. University of Minnesota for me seemed very formal, more rigid.
Okay.
They seemed a lot more laid back. I don't know if you've ever been to Texas or not, but it felt kind of like Texas, I guess, you know, semi-formal and no hats, but there was some howdies and y'all. But it wasn't, I didn't feel threatened by any stretch or I was cornered in any way. I didn't feel like they were picking my answers apart or anything. It seemed like it was more of an honest, just get to know you. The majority of it, they asked me just future goals, asked me a different experience I've had. They wanted specific examples of leadership or specific examples of doing something else. That was pretty much the majority of it. You know, why do I want to come to Texas A&M for? What am I going to contribute? Different things like that. I want to say it was kind of a, standard interview, I guess. The 3 that I went to, or 4 that I went to that I was interviewed at, they all kind of have similar questions. So, almost like a job interview, kind of.
Yeah.
One of those questions of, you know, I kind of think they're ridiculous, I guess, of the why should we pick you and nobody else?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, I don't even know who else is being interviewed, so I don't know, but I'll take a whack at it, I guess. So, but cheers.
Yeah, so if at the end of those interviews, they've already decided, that's just kind of like the last tipping point. So everything that you've said in, like your letters of recommendation and all your other information is pretty much what they're basing the majority of their decision on, unless you really botch that interview.
I think so, yeah. I think during the interview, they just kind of want to make sure that you're as good as what it looks like on paper.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and I don't know, I want to say the majority of them seem like that's kind of how they went. So, you know, didn't really seem like it was more of a, I don't know. I think it was the saying of, they knew that you're going to be able to be successful there. They just want to make sure you can actually fit into the culture and different things like that with the interview process. So,
Thank you.
hey, no problem. Cost of attendance. These are the current tables that I found online this morning. So you can see that if you're an in-state resident or if you have a tuition waiver, 1 and 2, it's significantly cheaper, and it's even more significantly cheaper than what Minnesota or VCU tend to cost. So this was one of the highlight points for me, is just that even if I was a non-resident, it's almost half of what Minnesota was charging, at least at the time. I don't know if they've changed at all, but I thought the last time I looked, it was about 60,000 a year, something like that for theirs. So, but, they have 3 different options for you, and I don't know if you can apply to what option you want to right off the bat. I'm not sure exactly how that works, or if they're still setting that up. When I applied, it seemed like it was just the one, or I guess the 2 options of you can do the 2-year program or the 3-year program, and now they have a 2.5-year program as well if it works better for you. 2-year program starts in the fall. You take 15 credits your first semester, 15 credits your second semester. It's a little more intense than 15 credits at BYU, Idaho. The stats, I guess the stats class, that's going to be one of the hardest ones on there probably. Most of their stuff, if you're a business major or healthcare administration major, anything like accounting major, even finance, anything like that, most of the other ones tend to fall in line pretty easy. You have economics, finance, health system is a lot like 285, Brother Tolman, just kind of an overall introduction. With the professor that we have, he also kind of went more in depth as to the healthcare systems in Texas and rural areas. That is going to be part of the thing you can see in every semester. We do have a public health class. We are part of the public health college, I guess, is what we fall under. So it's a lot like how it is here. You know, you have epidemiology classes really used to, and some other public health class you take to supplement your coursework here. So Texas A&M is a really, I want to say almost like a mirror image of what the program is here. The first year, I don't know if there's any completely brand new off-the-wall topics that I learned. Most of it was just kind of, I want to say, a refresher course. So it was kind of nice that way. I guess it's a compliment to Brother Tolman and what he's set up and everything for all of us here, is that I think he does a great job in preparing us. One of the things I was surprised to find out when I got there is the finance professor was actually the former finance professor at University of Minnesota. So I was expecting to buy brand new books and everything, but the finance book that Brother Tolman was using at the time when I was going through the class, same book, same case studies. So it was kind of nice to be able to not have to learn completely brand new case studies and different things. So here's the 2.5 one. And with both the 2.5 and the 3-year one, you don't take your practicum until the second year summer. So it'll kind of push it off. But the next 2 semesters are supposed to be the easier ones for me. So from what it looked like last year, it looked a lot easier than the one I was going through, so we'll see. But with practicums, the vast majority of them are placed in Texas, either in rural areas in Texas or in more metropolis areas. You can see, Houston is a big healthcare hub for us. We have a lot of interns and a lot of fellows that go into Houston. We have a few that go to Dallas, and then we have a few more that go to Austin. And occasionally we'll get some more that go into San Antonio. And then they kind of have a little bit in between there, just depending on if they want a rural setting or not. We had someone go to Birmingham, Alabama, where I believe it's University of Alabama's at, their healthcare hospital over there. Sorry if I messed that up, but anyway, it's this huge hospital. She went there, loved it, went back, is now a fellow there. So I think it's up almost around 900 beds, maybe more. I mean, it's a huge hospital. So Louisiana, we have people that go down there. Maryland, Johns Hopkins, we've had, I think we have 2 this summer, 2 last summer, and I think there were some more the summer before that. So we've consistently placed interns there.
Do you get a preference on where you get to go, or is it just purely assigned?
No, it's more like, at least when I was here, how you're more expected to kind of seek out your own. They'll help you along the way. There's a lot more, I want to say there's a lot more support because we have open networks, but you're still expected to kind of go out, make contact, make sure that's where you want to go, do your research. So there may be someone else that wants to go to the same spot, so you may be kind of, I want to say inadvertently competing, but otherwise it's a pretty non-competitive program that way. Like, you don't ever really compete with your fellow classmates or anything else, unless you're talking about practicums maybe on the spot that you want or something, but I don't know of anyone in my class who got a position that someone else just wanted, and all of us kind of found a spot that we wanted to go to, and it wasn't the same spot as anyone else, so. We've had some offers in Phoenix, Arizona, because we have some ties there. Some of our professors come from Phoenix, Arizona. There was, I think it was 3 classes ago before I got there, they had a lady go down to Los Angeles Children's Hospital and do a practicum down there. So, and then I'm in Vernal, and we now have, there's another person at the IASIS system down in Salt Lake. So, we're kind of the first 2, I think, in Utah, but organizations that we go to there, John Hopkins Methodist, we go to some community health systems. One of those hospitals happens to be in College Station. The HCA, we have a couple hospitals down there in Houston, and I think there's a couple in Dallas that we've had people go to for practicums. Children's Hospital, we have one down in Houston, I believe, and one up in Dallas, Fort Worth area, I know that we consistently go to. MD Anderson's down in Houston, Baylor Scott and White, it's a new merge that's happened. But we have people that go to Scott and White. We have a big new hospital there in College Station for Scott and White. IASIS is a new one, Life Point is a new one. And then East Texas Medical Center. They are a rural health system that pretty much covers all of, I want to say eastern Texas or east of Dallas, almost down to College Station and all the way over the border basically.
So I'm in Tyler.
And
This is in Tyler.
yeah, Tyler is their headquarters. We have 3 alumni, I think, that are there, and I think all of them are CEOs of one of their hospitals there. So we are, Texas A&M graduates have kind of heavily inundated, it seems like, on East Texas Medical Center. So, and they seem to have a great time there, like their jobs, and see what happens. But so, this last class, I believe we were told right before we got here that 40% of them were placed in fellowships, or that's our whole total class average from the time that the program started in the early 2000s, I believe, to now. 40% of us were placed in fellowships statistically. Job-wise, about 90% of us have jobs already lined up or will start as soon as we graduate. The ones that are 3 months out, usually they're lined up, but they don't start them until the start date is what I'm pretty sure happens. So they could have them start up in June or July after graduation, but they can't count them until they actually start. So I don't know of anyone who is still looking for a job. Might have 1 or 2 maybe, but everyone else, they knew pretty much before Christmas where they were going, if they were going to a fellowship, and then before March or by March if where they were getting a job at. So it's kind of nice that way, I guess. But
Are most of the shops in Texas specifically, or are they kind of spread over? Or?
most of them are in Texas,
Yeah.
and like when I was asking during my interview, I asked the department kind of head why that is, and it's more just a matter of choice.
Sure.
So they have right now the majority of our students are Texas A&M graduates that move on into the graduate program there. So they, born and raised in Texas, or they have family in Texas, and so they're just going to stay around the area. But it doesn't mean that they're not. They've placed other places. I think they placed a couple in California, a couple in Colorado, and I want to say further out east. We've had some, I know, in Louisiana. We've had a lot go to Louisiana. But for the most part, with graduate schools, on my interviews too, kind of what I found out is they kind of seem to dominate the region. And if you start going outside the region, they have options that you can look at, but it's nowhere near as successful as the local areas. So,
Okay.
but it's someone else.
Yeah, where are you heading after you're in your second year?
I'm going to be starting my second year in the fall.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm at the practicum. I'm right in the middle.
Okay.
So after that, I don't know.
You'll
We'll
see.
see.
Okay, cool.
I'm trying to work on fellowship with Life Point. We'll see where that goes, fellowship or job. So the CEO's kind of working on that right now, but I'll apply to a couple other places. I'll have to look through the list and see. So, we do have an alumni group. It's small comparatively speaking to what Minnesota's is or VCU. This program is, I want to say it's somewhere around 10 years old. So every year we have a class of about 25, 30, somewhere in there graduate. It's come a long ways for only being, you know, kind of a new program, just kind of like here in BYU, Idaho, which is kind of ironic. I see a lot of similarities in the programs, I guess, but this is kind of one of them where they're more of a up and coming, I guess. This next time that World News goes around and ranks everyone again, the goal is that we're going to be at least 25 or higher, and I don't, at least as of right now, looking at it, I don't see why that's not possible, I guess, with the fellowships that they keep placing and different curriculum that they come out with and different things like that. So we do have easy access to our alumni and mentors. We even have like just an organization. They have meetings every now and again on passing out lists, getting you paired up with a mentor. You just fill out your like an information sheet, turn it in. We have a student that's actually in our class, takes care of all that, and she's in contact, or they're in contact with all the alumni. So if you have needs or for practicums, possible fellowships, things like that, they're easy to get a hold of. So they come out and they visit. We usually have like last year we had like what was it called? I don't remember, but during game day, one of the game days. Yeah, there you go, tailgate party. So invite everyone back in and just kind of get a mix and mingle with everyone. They're all pretty easy to get along with, so they are great ways to network, future jobs. All of them are willing. I've never met one yet that's not willing to have you come out and shadow them, or if you want to work for free, which is work experience or volunteer opportunities, they're more than welcome to have you come out, you know, so many days, or you know, every Friday, or whatever it is you can do between school and have a project, or see how the hospital works and different things like that. So during the internship, there are internships offered. Usually they refer to the practicum. It's like your summer practicum, the big internship for your degree. Otherwise on campus, most of the time we refer to an internship as just it's paid. It's more like a part-time job in the healthcare community. I work at a place called Health Point, and it's part of a community action agency. It's a federally qualified health center. So we have higher rates for Medicare and Medicaid patients because we tend to serve that population more. So there, what I do is I record and enter data, run different analysis on it, and then prepare it, I guess, to be a report so that way the other executives can make decisions on what things we should do to improve quality, costs, different things like that. So it's interesting to see how it works. Looking out to see how hospitals work, my practicums, I guess, and my internship here, I've gotten a lot of information or exposure to how management would work. So, go ahead.
I know you, and this is kind of on the spot, you may not be able to give specifics, but what are some of the things, just in the stuff that you're doing now and running some of those tests that you're finding in your facilities that have been beneficial from some of the tests you're running?
So, one of the big things that from what it seems like with the education piece and news and different things like that, there's a huge push that's starting to happen now that we're starting to see more on the front lines of this improvement in quality. Whether it's in clinics, whether it's in hospitals, insurance companies, we want them to start being more efficient. And so one of the things that Texas A&M is doing is like you have a statistics class, you have a quality class, you have a operations management class, and all three of those things are heavily involved with process improvements and efficiencies and things like that. So when we run these different tests, I guess, like cycle times, which is basically door-to-dock time, you know, how can we improve that time? How can we shorten it? You can use that still at the ER and different things like that, but basically what it is we're trying to figure out ways to be more efficient. So the patient can come in, we can see them, diagnose them, treat them, and then have them go on their way. So it doesn't take so much time out of their day. We still are able to make at least a little bit of a margin, or maybe we can increase margins or something like that to provide more service lines, different things like that. So most of it is just more process improvement along those lines, I guess. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones I run. I run like 10, but I don't remember what they are now. So if I remember, I'll let you know. But one of the things you are expected to do as an MHA student is they want you to be heavily involved with memberships too. IHI is the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, and they're big into the quality improvement processes and different things like that. They do free classes online. You can get different certifications from them. A lot of stuff you learn there is similar to like Six Sigma, things of that nature. ACHE, they're starting to put out a lot more publications, different things. AFL is a student association that's directly linked to ACHE. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's like an ACHE regional or what's it called? Section or chapter, there you go. Yeah, I'm not thinking about books, but it's like a chapter just for the school, and so it falls under this thing called AFL. But it's, and then there's MGMA, we have a student chapter there. I think there's 2 or 3 other ones too that I can't remember off the top of my head, but. So, they keep track of how often you attend, there's attendance taken all the time at every meeting that we go to, service projects, different things like that. You get different points for going, and they can give you different discounts or help supplement you by going to Congress or different things like that, you know, paying for your meals or your hotels or something like that. Trying to help you financially in some way to get to those different things, get exposed, yeah.
So they want you to be a member of like several different organizations like these? Okay.
Yeah, it's one of their professional development pieces. They expect you to put these on your resume. They expect you to be active members. Like with AFL, we do a quarterly breakfast. We leave, I think it's at like 5 in the morning, drive down to Houston to get to breakfast at 8 o'clock or 7:30, something like that. But it's great breakfast. We have a speaker and everything. It's informative. It's nice. Great ways to network if you can open up, talk to people, introduce yourselves. Most people love Texas A&M, especially down in Texas. So, but.
It's big there.
So it's just going over again, like typical thing is take 15 credits those first 2 semesters. It's Monday through Thursday. You have 1 class every day from 5:30 to 8:30. Fridays you have off to do homework basically. And we also have 1 online class, which is typically that public health class, so that's what it's been so far. And then the second year, it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, at least as of right now, unless they change it. And it's just 12 credits a semester, so.
So you work as well, you said, correct?
I do, yeah, I
You do
do.
that in the daytime, I assume? or-
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do from,
5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So he does night classes.
Yeah, he works.
yeah, but I work at
Oh,
Health Point from 8 to 2, basically. I get somewhere around 20-25 hours in every week, basically. There's some weeks, final midterms, I'll lean a lot more on the 20, and other weeks it's just on 25. So.
And when you,
No.
when you found that, was that through affiliation with the school, or did you just kind of go out and found it on your own, or?
One of the, when I went through my interview, I was offered $1,000 scholarship, in-state tuition waiver, and then they also promised to help me get a job to also offset the costs.
It's a good deal.
So
Yeah.
it's not a bad deal. So when I got there weren't any immediate jobs open. I got there beginning of August, right? August 10th, I think it was August 11th, something like that, when we rolled into town. Most of the jobs open up during summertime when students are in the practicums, so like June, July. By the time August comes around, a lot of them are getting jobs again. So when I got there, I think it was October when I started working at Health Point. So, but that came directly through the school. They send a thing to the school saying we have an internship opportunity available, and then I had a professor he coordinates all that, and he emailed me, asked me if I was interested, and I think it was like 3 days and I had a job, something like that.
And if this is too personal, and I don't need specifics,
No,
but
go ahead.
compensation-wise, is it at all close to what you'd make if you just went out and got a job and weren't an internship kind of thing, or is it a little less, like?
It's more than minimum wage, I guess, right? My range for at least the position I'm at is $10 to $12 an hour, I think is what it is, and I think I landed right in the middle on 11.
Okay.
So, as far as I know, I don't have any taxes taken out. She looks at all my pay stubs and everything for me, so I just kind of.
I think for part-time work that you're gonna find there anyway, to work with your school schedule, it's pretty decent for the area, especially with the college there. otherwise you're looking for a full-time position that might pay more, but you're sacrificing that time for school, so it's kind of a
Yeah.
trade-off.
Thank you, I appreciate that, just.
No, you're fine. So,
Was
yeah,
that-
one of the things is, sorry.
Oh, was that common with like other students? They're able to find like similar arrangements through the school, or?
As far as I know, yeah. Most of the time, like, the professor who coordinates it, he asks very regularly on who's working, where you're working at, you know, let him know if there's any positions. He goes out and tries to contact people, kind of put some feelers out there, I guess, and a lot of times we get a lot of feedback just from the community in general, asking if they have graduates that are available or anything like that. Some of the students don't want to work, so they don't. I want to say it's kind of a mixed bag, I guess, where it's probably about half that do and half that don't. So,
There's some that only work 5 to 10 hours just to be maintaining the work experience during the program, so it's just
Yeah.
kind of what your needs are.
Because do they want you to be kind of having experience?
they do,
more?
yeah. They would prefer that you have a part-time job, so they require you to be very active in the program that way, where they want you to work to build your resume, they want you to be a member of these different programs or associations to build your resume, they want you going to school, and so that way you're continuing to build networks, you're continuing to build your resumes up, and it seems like it's been pretty successful so far. I mean, I don't know what the other schools are like with placing fellowships or anything, but, you know, almost half basically
Yeah, that's
will
good.
can expect it anyway, so. But we did talk to a couple people before we got there. He worked full-time for a while, I think, right? And he would basically be gone from 8 to 11, midnight, something like that, Monday through Thursday.
Yeah,
And then he'd try and get all of his homework done on Friday, so then Saturday, Sunday, he could spend at home with his family.
yeah,
So,
sounds rough.
yeah, it's kind of one of those balances. You know, I think they were able to shuffle things around, do things a little bit differently after the first semester or something, but,
Okay.
so. And one of the things you do too is like, with the 3-year program, all of those, for the most, as far as I know, everyone that's in the 3-year program, they all work full-time.
Just because there's less
So-
class work.
So yeah, I think it's 3 classes,
Yeah.
maybe even less, maybe sometimes 2 classes, something like that. So it's, yeah, significantly less than what the 2 years do, so.
Thank you again.
Yeah, so 25 hours per week. Church buildings are pretty close, they're not too far away. We have a great ward. I know people from several other different wards, they're great too. I've never been to the wards, I guess, but the people are great. We had an experience even where I think right after we had our youngest, he was in the NICU, we went to a gas station, had to pay for something inside or whatever. The lady started, I think we talked for like an hour, different story, hospital stories. So people are real friendly down there. They love to talk and they'll share, and it's nice. But and you're about an hour and a half away, I think it is, from the temple in Houston. So church-wise, it's not bad at all. Everything's pretty still close together. It's not, you're not driving hours or 30 minutes or anything like that to a church building, unless you have traffic or something like that. But I think we're like 10 minutes away, somewhere in there like that. So, and they do have a university single student ward. They meet, as far as I understand, they're called the Traditions Ward, and they meet just across the street off campus or something like that. But I think we have 4 of the wards, and like 5 branches.
3 College Station wards, and I don't remember how many Bryan wards are, and then there are 4 branches.
So it's not a bad size steak. But Bryan College Station, as usually how they refer to it, is right here. You can see Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and Fort Worth, Dallas area. It's kind of just right there in the middle of the triangle almost. They just approved, I believe, to build this right here into an interstate instead of a state highway, so it'll be quicker to get down to the temple once that's built. We're down in Houston. College Station is about, Bryan College Station area is about 100,000 people and more now. They're growing pretty quick still, and you can pretty much do whatever you want there. They have a mall, and there's Best Buy, Super Walmarts, Costco, or Sam's Club. I guess there's been talk of a Costco coming, something like that, but a number of restaurants. And if they don't have it, then Houston, is an hour and a half, 2 hours away, and they have everything. So.
Houston's the fourth largest city in the U.S.
So exactly. So yeah, they literally almost have everything. They even have the ocean and things like that. So it almost seems, I guess, like the culture area of it. We were talking about this morning. It kind of seems a lot like Idaho Falls, Pocatello. There's not a lot of big skyscrapers or anything like that. But it's like 4 times bigger. So it's just a larger area. But otherwise, like, I kind of almost related to that. So one of the big things with Texas A&M, I guess, just to kind of close off Texas A&M here, is they have a lot of traditions. A ton of traditions. They have a camp called Fish Camp. Apparently you can apply to go there if you're going to your undergraduate there, and they teach you all of the traditions. And I guess it's, from what I understand, it's kind of competitive to get into, because then you can kind of teach everyone else when you're done and things like that. But it started off as a military school, military academy, almost kind of similar to West Point, it sounds like. They were incorporated into just an actual state university. And then they've maintained a lot of those traditions still throughout with the what happened during military times and new ones that we have. There's a huge emphasis on football, especially with John Manziel being there recently. Yeah. But they are expanding the stadium. You can see, like, in the bottom left corner, that's what it's supposed to look like when it's done. Right now, they've had 3 sides up for a while, and they're building that 4th side on the back end of it. But there is a huge dedication for alumni. It's, once you're a Texas A&M graduate, you're always a Texas A&M graduate. They do even traditions on how you're supposed to get your rings and different things like that. They have a memorial center, which is like would be kind of similar to the MC, but their memorial center, there's no walking on the grass because it's in memory of the fallen soldiers. And so they have signs all over the place, not stepping on the grass for that area. It's I think it's the 3rd largest land-wise university in the United States, I think. It's just a massive campus. This picture here, I don't even come over to this area. My art classes are all back up in here and stuff. So there's an east side and a west side of campus, and we're all on the west side of campus. So, but home of the 12th man, there's a lot of stuff on the 12th man there. The student area for any of the sports, you stand the whole time, from what I understand, because of that. But there's a really proud tradition there, kind of honor almost of being an Aggie here at Texas A&M. And so it's really a big community. When you do drive in, you will see signs saying "Welcome to Aggie Land," and I guess there is an actual boundary. You can Google it, and they'll show you an actual map of where Aggie Land consists of, I guess. I didn't know that when we drove in, and I saw this barn. It's painted red. It says "Welcome to Aggie Land" on it. I don't know whose barn it is even. It doesn't belong to the school as far as I know. It's just off the highway, and so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But on game day, every business will be flying the Texas A&M flag. Right there with the Texas flag, United States flag, banks, I mean, anybody, they all have flags out. So, but, if you want to come, you're expected to be a part of it. Once you're a part of it, you're never supposed to leave. So, it's been a great place so far. I wouldn't change anything. I think that's where me and my family fit in the best. So, yeah, I guess you guys have any questions now about it? Or did I answer all of them? Yeah.
If you were in your undergrad program here at BYU Idaho again, is there anything you would change in preparation for grad school? Or anything that you would do that you liked that you did?
I think one of the things I liked that I did was I kind of made the decision that I wanted to go to a ranked university. That was just me. I decided between an MBA and an MHA. I kind of weighed the pros and cons and what I really wanted to do. If I start in healthcare, am I really ever going to jump out of it? For me, I don't think that I am, and so I went with the MHA. So all the MBA programs, I kind of, put them aside. I didn't want an MBA with an emphasis on healthcare, I just wanted my MHA then. Then we went through together, because we were already married at the time, so we went through together on all the ranked schools. Kind of went through, saw which ones kind of stuck out, we both kind of made lists and compared them, and the ones we got the same on, we looked further in depth into those and kind of just weeded them out that way, but I like that part of it personally. I would highly recommend it just on learning who the school is, where they, you know, what they were, where they are now, what are their goals. A lot of them have different ambitions on what they want to be, and so they teach a little differently that way. I don't know, it's interesting. The biggest thing is I don't know how many of you have heard about Sam Blukoff or if you know him or anything. Like, he was one of the first ones to graduate through our program. He double majored in economics and in MHA. He went to University of Minnesota and he graduated from there, I think it was 2 years ago now. He's at Geisinger now. He got a fellowship at Geisinger. But he was, you know, one of my friends, mentors that I always talked to. Asked him what he did, what he thought. The biggest thing that he always emphasized is being yourself. Is whatever you do, wherever you go, you're going to want to be yourself. So don't try to make yourself fit into a program that doesn't fit with you already. I mean, no program is going to be perfect, but there are going to be programs that you'll mold with a lot easier and conform better to than others. You know, his thing was not everyone should go to Minnesota, not everyone should go to VCU or Ohio State or Texas A&M, or, you know, we all go to different locations because it fits our personalities, it fits our needs better. And so his biggest thing is the biggest emphasis of just praying about it. You know, when you weed it down to your top 6 or something, he would do 2 for sures, 2 maybes, or, you know, kind of what he expects to get, and then 2 that were just completely out of his reach. So I tried to follow the same thing and ended up pretty good, I thought. So felt like this is where we should be, and this is the same thing, I guess. Like, I can tell you, when I went to the interviews at VCU in Minnesota, right after the interviews were done, I was kind of, you know, sad a little bit, because I'd call her and tell her, like, yeah, I don't think we're going here. So, I mean, even if they do offer me a position, I don't think I'm going to take it at all. So we just kind of withdrew and ended up with Texas A&M and loved it ever since, I guess. But
One thing I would just add to that with your question is I would, if you're thinking about graduate school, even if you don't know that that's what you want to do yet, I would look at the different programs that would be a possibility and look at their requirements to see what they do require. The program here has been really good about preparing you for graduate school. Brother Schwimmen's excellent at that. However, sometimes there's a surprise class that maybe you didn't get in, and you want to have those prerequisites done. And so I would definitely make sure that you're staying in line for that goal. For instance, like the statistics class. You want to know that you need that B already, or a certain accounting class. You want to make sure that you take the right accounting class. So that's something else I would definitely.
yeah, another one would be like epidemiology.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, at least when I looked it up, all of them have an epidemiology class. So, you know, I think, did they take it away from the program here?
We did.
It
So-
depends on your catalog year. You can
Depends on the
switch.
year. Okay.
Is epidemiology a prereq for this program?
It's not a prereq, but we do take an epidemiology class, and I can tell you that by taking it here, I took it from Brother Watson. I don't know if he's still here or not. He talked about
That's how I took it
moving on, but
Yeah.
that class was extremely preparatory. Like, did wonders for this other one here, because even the stats class, even though like it's the same concepts are still universal. They use different terminology and more detail about it and stuff like that, so it gets kind of confusing, and at least for me, that's what happened in statistics and epidemiology. It was kind of like, wait a sec. But
You mentioned statistics a few times. Did you take did you take the stats class here?
uh-huh. Yeah, I took biostats here. I took the research methodology, epidemiology, and then I had a psych class that was another research and methods class there. And
For me personally, I was like, there's other stats class that I was thinking about taking just to get more stats, because I've heard a lot of people say the stats. Is that your experience that having more stats understanding is better than taking some of the random
from
elective or whatever?
looking back, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I think the industry even is moving more towards trying to standardize things, and to do that you have to have
Stats.
statistics. So even when you get to the bigger picture, if you don't have to even do the stats yourself, you still have to be able to read them, understand them, to know where to give and take and different things like that. So
Are there any other classes that you would, that are similar to that, like economics or anything at all, or?
we have one econ class, and I took the macro and micro here, and that class, at least for me, that class wasn't difficult.
Yeah,
The finance classes, they go almost right along with the finance classes here.
okay.
I mean, I think here we did what, intro to finance, healthcare finance, survey of accounting, and then I thought there was one more.
There's like, did you say personal finance?
Personal finance, yeah. So.
So
I might have changed the names,
it
but-
seems a lot of like what you're learning in the classroom like really applies like your job and like your kind of internship. Would you kind of agree with that? Kind of goes along together, or?
So far, I would say that the stats part applies to the internship that I'm doing right now. They're in the process of a lot of quality control, a lot of process improvements. My practicum right now, none of my projects right now directly involve any kind of quality or process improvement, I guess, right now. Some of that was by choice. It's just not what I love to do. Right now, my project is on expansion options, I guess, for the hospital. So I'm dealing a lot more with finance, business writing, things like that, I guess. Critical thinking that way. Not so much with the statistics though, but more accounting, finance, and I want to say managing relationships, I guess, and make phone calls. I know I talk to different people all the time and try to get information. So part of it, I think, just depends on where you're going to. I think most of my cohort or most of my classmates, where they're going into larger hospitals who are trying to maintain that quality improvement, process improvement stuff, I think their projects are relying a lot more on statistics than what mine is, I guess. So.
You mentioned previously that each school kind of has its agenda, its mission statement kind of thing. What is Texas A&M, like what are they trying to do? What sort of people are trying to produce? Like what's their claim to fame kind of thing?
So that, okay, you can find it on their website, I don't have it memorized, but that's kind of what this is supposed to be telling you. I want to say it's kind of like at the bottom that I read it. But basically what they want to do is they want to be a national leader in providing healthcare professionals. They don't want to strictly do it just for academic medical centers or metropolis areas, although they do offer that and they still teach towards that. They would like a lot of students to go into rural areas as well, and community health centers, things like that. They are very focused on hospitals. They don't actively discourage you from going to clinics or medical management or anything else like that. Because we have an MGMA chapter on campus still and everything. However, they would try and probably steer more towards the hospitals and doing things like that. Some of the programs I went to seemed to lean definitely one way or the other when I interviewed them, or at least watching where most of their fellows place and where their job placements are. So, I'm kind of indifferent on it, I guess. I kind of feel like they just spend money different ways, so I don't know.
Have you enjoyed your internships with the for-profit hospitals that you've done?
I've loved them so far. I've also worked for probably some of the largest ones, I guess, like ACA has huge resources, and then Sandy Moore was my preceptor, and she's over in at St. Luke's Health System now at Boise. But I got to help with the startup of that transfer center they have. It's supposed to work where doctors of any kind or hospitals can call in, they say we need to transfer a patient there, and it goes to the transfer center and they basically can find them a bed, get the paperwork that we need, notify physicians, different things like that. So it was nice to be able to see all the technical parts of it. The best thing I think is just the vast amount of resources that are available. I mean, it's kind of one of those things of ACA's hospitals everywhere, and so there was already a handful of hospitals that had one. So the executives could even just say, well, let's go over to Colorado and see how they do theirs. or let's go over here and see how they do theirs. Same thing with their PACU unit, you know, they went and saw different PACU units. One of the benefits of LifePoint is the same kind of thing. They focus mainly on rural hospitals. So we can go to other rural hospitals in Arizona, Tennessee, Virginia, Texas. I think they have some in Oklahoma, Kansas, kind of all around the middle section, I guess. But and just see what other hospitals are doing. You know, we have access to corporate funds for different projects and capital, like the capital acquisitions that we need. So, like the one in Vernal, they have some of the best radiology systems I've seen for a rural hospital. I mean, they have a normal 64 slice CT, they have an MRI, they have, you know, all their stuff is digital. I mean, for a lot of rural hospitals, that's not an option. There's no way you can afford that stuff. So,
That's just being a widespread organization.
um,
That wouldn't be strictly with for-profit hospitals necessarily, because they're like Intermountain Healthcare or something like that.
yeah, they would do the same kind of ability that way.
Okay.
I haven't seen, from my associations, and I haven't actually worked in a not-for-profit hospital, so I don't know for a fact, I guess, but from what my interactions have been, there's not really different of operations until it starts coming down to how people perceive you, I guess. I mean, I don't know, you know, some people invest, they would expect a return back. The not-for-profits, they are being required more and more now to prove that they're benefiting the community, whereas before, for-profit hospitals were kind of already held to that standard, so they, you know, release tax forms and different things like that, saying that we pay so much in taxes and we offer these programs and things like that. So, I mean, when push comes to shove, I think they pretty much operate the same way. I mean, we may have different mission statements, but I think overall the people who work in the facilities, none of them are just, you know, greedy people who want money. They all want to serve the communities and help benefit the healthcare there and everything else, and, you know, have a job at the end of the day. So that's kind of my take on it, I guess, my personal opinion. But hopefully that doesn't get me in trouble. But so, but I guess anything else? Or, do you have another question? Like you were thinking about something.
I heard a rumor that you had to like wear, my internship, someone mentioned that you had to wear like suits in the classroom or something like that. Is that true?
So, okay, so there's a lot of similarities to BYU-I still. They make it clear that they, like, you won't get in trouble necessarily, they can't write you up or anything like that, but they do expect you still to have professional dress, clean shaven. There are some students who kind of go back and forth on that, or at least neatly shaven, I guess. So it's a lot like BYU, where you can have a beard and stuff, just as long as it's not, you know, everywhere. So, but yeah, there are a lot of different things. They don't expect to see you wearing shorts and a t-shirt in the classrooms. I usually wear just collared shirt and slacks, because I come from work most of the time. You know, you can wear your khakis and a polo shirt. I mean, so it's not too bad for the most part.
I just heard suit, and that's why I was like.
No, I only ever wear, in fact, I think I wore my suit more BYU than I did so far at Texas A&M. So we only wear suits, like actually the whole suit and tie for presentations and things like that. So.
The number you showed us at the beginning for cost, is that for everything throughout your whole program? Or is that a semesterly rate?
So this is an estimate on what it
Okay.
would cost you, as far as my understanding goes, if you're single.
And this one
So-
shows 9 months.
This is your
So if
personal
you
cost.
combine those two costs, that's probably the whole program total cost. Does that make sense? So, because you take 12 months for the first year, the 2 semesters of the internship,
Right.
and then the next 9 months will be your second year. And so you can kind of look at resident tuition, combine those, and then the non-resident tuition, combine those, that's your tuition cost for the whole program.
Okay.
But like you said, so for those who are married, have families, your room and board is obviously going to cost more you find once you get there. It's pretty expensive to live in College Station. And so you
Yeah.
kind of adjust that way, but yeah, I would definitely combine those for a total program
So-
cost.
Both take the.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, if you take them both
sense.
together, that's probably the total cost of the degree,
Okay.
like, I guess by end of day, without any sort of tuition waivers, financial aid or anything
And
else
is
like
that
so.
pretty easy to get down there,
You know, it didn't seem like everyone got a scholarship, it didn't seem unusual that people got some money. They are limited in the sense that like they only have 250 alumni still, so
Yeah.
they only get so much in, and so they manage that still, but where they can, they do, hand out money. So I didn't have to even really negotiate with them, I guess. One of the questions I will say in all my interviews that just popped in my head that they asked me was where else I applied to. They wanted to know, I guess, who else I was looking at, I guess, so, and they would ask questions like one or two about those different programs, just kind of random, so.
They asked that at every interview you did?
Every interview that I did, every one of them wanted to know where else I'd already applied to. And then they also, some of them asked a follow-up question of, have they given you a decision yet, have you interviewed with them yet? So, and with this one, I think, by that time I interviewed with, BCU, and I was already accepted though with UNLV and U, I think at that point, so. And so I don't know if, I told them I applied to University of Minnesota too, and I don't know if that had any bearing on it at all, but maybe I did. I was kind of ready to use it as leverage, even though, like with VCU, I already said I wasn't gonna go, so,
They
They
don't
didn't
know
know
that.
that.
yeah, exactly, so.
Did you say University of Utah, did you apply there?
Mhm.
How was the process, how did that,
It was, well, okay, so in their defense, they were kind of like a last minute decision for me, and I think I had, 2 weeks to apply, something like that? Or I
Well,
found out I had 2 weeks to apply.
okay, so their program is different. You're aware of how they do the dual degree. And so that was kind of a tricky thing when we were going through that process where there are 2 applications the whole time and you have to make sure, and they have different deadlines. At least they did when we were going through it. And so for one of them, we were on top of it the whole time, and then it was last minute that we had to pull in the dual degree application in. And so it was okay. It was,
It ended up working out.
yeah,
I
the
got
process was
accepted,
fine.
right,
It was
got an
probably the
offer, but-
easiest. In the end.
And that way online, yeah, it was the easiest one. There was no interview for that one. At least they didn't ever interview me, it didn't seem like they did. Maybe they did on the phone when I called to see what was going on, make sure I did everything okay, but, yeah, the one thing about them was that I asked them about financial aid and they didn't really respond with anything. And so it was kind of like, well, I don't really want an MPH degree, I want an MHA, and their thing was you really apply to an MBA, MPH, or, what is it? It's not it's Masters of
Public policy.
Public Policy or something like that,
MA.
MPH,
Masters of Public Health, Masters of
MHP,
Business.
something like that.
And yeah.
It's basically just solely policy based on public health. So you apply one of those degrees and then you apply for the MHA degree. That's kind of like the second part to that degree, so.
Did you take time off from the time you finished your undergrad and when you started graduate studies? Did you take like a year off and then go pursue master's?
From school I did, yeah. And to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't decide, I think, until like the last semester after my internship with ERMAC that I wanted to go to grad school, that I wanted to work in a hospital. So I graduated in April, and then June is when I got a job at Norco down in Blackfoot. Worked there for about a year. Yeah, applied that fall still to all the classes or all the schools I wanted to. And then it seemed to actually be a big benefit. So I think I'm one of 5 in my class that has any experience at all in healthcare. So, and that's including internships. So,
So you graduated and then you started working for a year and then you decided to take your master's?
yeah, I decided the semester I graduated that I wanted to be in graduate school. And so that's why I already missed the deadlines to start that fall. So I got a job and that fall applied and then I guess went the fall after. It's a lot of falls. But so that's what I did. But all of them asked me questions about my experience. They'll ask me about my internship at ERMAC and my current work that I'm doing and what I do and things like that. So I thought it was really beneficial to see them stand out. I'm the one of two out of the two in the class who just graduated, and me, I think I'm one of two that worked at a durable medical equipment store. So that's an option, I guess, when I get out of school too, is we can work there too, since they do healthcare stuff. So, anything else, I guess? Like your questions are great. So.
Are your classmates pretty similar with like work experience, or were there some that came straight from undergrad, very diverse?
The vast majority of them came straight from undergraduates. The vast majority of them do not have business-related degrees. We have biology majors, public health majors, health science majors. We have one guy who's one of my close friends and stuff, but he got his in genetics. I'm pretty sure he wanted to be a doctor, and then decided he'd go for this, and then I don't know if he's still deciding on the doctor thing or not, but so there's a majority of them are at least from public health background, but only a small handful of us are either business. I'm the only one with a healthcare administration degree from any class as far as I know. But after talking to my advisor and the program directors and stuff like that, they expect more healthcare administration undergraduates to be applying, so. It's kind of nice because the class sizes are small. It really does feel a lot like BYU-Idaho. It's one of the things that I love about it, is that I don't really feel like I completely switched programs, I guess. It kind of felt like it more is going along the same track, minus, we don't get to say prayers at the beginning of class or anything like that, but, give and take, I guess. So, and there's still a lot of group work, yeah. There's a lot of group work.
I would say two things from BYU-Idaho, like that he experienced here that carried over, were presentations and the group work. If you know how to present and you feel confident in that, you're going to do amazing there, because you will be surprised how many graduate students don't know how to do that, and then how many graduate students don't know how to work in a group. So, but you'll come away with that after experiencing BYU-Idaho.
So, I will say I'm one of the older ones too, I guess.
Yeah.
I think our average age is like 20 or 21, something like that. So, and there are, yeah, I think there's probably about a quarter of us that are married, and there's 3 of us that have kids.
It's very different than you got.
Very different that way, yeah. So,
That makes sense,
Yeah,
because we'll be going in at 23, 24, but take off 2 years mission.
Yeah.
So, is anything else, or think of anything, I guess, later on, then go ahead and let me know. 0